Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry.
All right, tweet time.
Oh, good. We're beginning with case orbs. I'm so happy.
There's so much case orbs in this one. You have no
It's
idea.
like normalcy has returned to the world.
So Case Orb says, interesting to see the pro-choice crowd mad about kids in the Texas River. Now you care about life? It's like, no, we're pointing... Okay, first off, pro-choice. Did they choose to die there? No? Okay, that's not a choice then, is it, Kevin? But also, like, this is our point, is that these guys, the people that call themselves pro-life, don't care after the life is out of the womb.
Yep.
They're being callous as fuck about a woman and her children who drowned in the river because fucking Republicans have to make a stand about the border. Instead of just doing the normal thing of, like, taking them into custody when they get there and, like, processing them properly.
Nope, they'd rather just deport all of them. That's what they'd rather do.
Or just drown them in the river, apparently.
Yep.
Block them from getting out with razor wire. That's humane.
Yep. Mark Dice was going off about that recently, how it's not good to allow people into the country ever, basically ever. But, you know, it is good to keep razor wire up. That makes you look like not the villains.
So Lubalar says, Cirrus, Nutella on ice cream. You're welcome. First off, thanks. But secondly, what makes you think I haven't already tried that? Because, yeah.
Have had
tried
Nutella. I've had Nutella milkshakes. So yes, I have.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Case orbs again. So Joe Biden said, I won't allow extreme Republicans to hand out massive giveaways to the wealthy and large corporations while raising your costs and cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Kevin Sorbo retweeted that, saying you'd rather give all that to illegals while Americans starve. To which I'm
Where's
like,
the evidence that we actually give that money to people who are undocumented and therefore aren't paying taxes?
If I recall, undocumented people actually pay on average more tax than the average American citizen.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I don't recall where I heard that, so like look it up. Don't just take my word for it. But I seem to recall something about that. But also, like, my first thought when I read that was like, oh, okay, Kevin, does that mean you're in favor of government programs that give free food to Americans, like the SNAP program or the school lunch programs? Like these things that Republicans always fight against?
He'd have to be consistent. God, I love the argument that I've heard it only ever from YouTubers, never from politicians, unless somebody can prove me wrong by finding a politician who uses this argument, in which case I'll give up on society as a whole. I will straight up just eat it. But the argument that you should not let kids have free lunch at school because the concept of a free lunch doesn't really exist and you don't want to instill that in them.
No, that's stupid.
It's very stupid.
It's like my kids understand that, like, when you're like, all the schools in my region have a breakfast club program, which you don't have to be poor to get the breakfast at school. They just have food available at school as soon as kids get there. And any kid that wants to can have some food. My kids know that comes from tax money. Like, my kids know that their free healthcare comes from tax money. Like, they might not fully understand what that means, but like, we've had these conversations. They're aware that it's not actually free. So Nathaniel
who's
Jolly,
this chucklefuck? I don't know this guy.
I don't know. He's some guy. I don't really want to talk about this tweet too much, although there's a lot to unpack here. But there's a follow-up that comes after that's just a gem. Slavery is not in and of itself wrong.
What?
You can dismiss this guy's opinions now, just from that one statement. The form matters. Man-stealing is forbidden, yet the Christian is rightfully a slave of Christ. Yet the fact that God used slavery as a positive metaphor is not a good thing.
No, that doesn't make it better. That makes it worse, actually.
Yeah.
Because now it's slavery and brainwashing.
Yeah. Also, we are all slaves either of sin resulting in death or obedience resulting in righteousness. Again, not a good thing.
Doesn't make it better.
Yeah. Okay, so but that's not the main thing about Nathan. So Bill B replied saying, "I'm just here for the ratio," to which Nathaniel replied, "Jesus was ratioed too by all of those who hated him." Which, like, that is my absolute favorite Christian pastor type person trying to be relatable moment. With like, "Oh, kids, you worried about getting ratioed these days? Well, Jesus was ratioed too."
Jeez, give me just a second.
It's just mwah, no notes. It's beautiful. I love it. Duct tape Jake says, "Wait, what does that even mean?" I don't know what that means.
Don't know what it means. What?
Wait, to be ratioed? Okay, so to be ratioed is when you like post something and then someone that responds to you gets more likes or interaction or whatever than you did with your original thing.
Yep.
So like, yeah, so this person got 278 likes. I didn't screenshot the likes on this one, but he did ratio him. I think Nathaniel had like 15 likes on the original post. But he was ratioed just like Jesus.
They ratioed Jesus because they knew he was right or something. I don't remember how that tract goes.
People replying to me getting more likes than I did is just like being crucified. Shut up. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. You fucking dog.
You heard her?
Yeah. God damn it.
It's like clockwork. She knows. God, I have be right back again to let Growlithe out because apparently that's what I'm doing. Come on, Growlithe.
Yeah, but how does being executed for political insurgency equate to being ratioed? Because clearly the Romans got more likes than Jesus. And that's why they executed him. Even though he was the OP. He was the OPGOD. Yes, I know that's cringy. I'm taking my hat off now. Because I'm a grown-up.
I didn't even notice what time it was, and then you mentioned, like, Growlithe.
No,
it's
so
10.
I heard Growlithe growl, and I was going to be like, "Shut up, Growlithe, it's not 10 o'clock yet." And then I looked at the clock and was like, "Oh, it's 9:55, so it may as well be."
I don't know how she knows that.
Yeah,
I don't know how she has a concept for that.
I don't know. Dogs are weird like that. Daniel says, "Strange how unbelievers never take God's side. It's always assumed that he is the bad guy and that the depraved humans are the victims whenever he judges them." By judges, he means murders. "Do you ever hear, 'I can see why God did that from them'? Reminds me of how teenagers often view their parents." Like, yeah, if I start killing my children, then maybe they could view me as a bit of a tyrant. That's immoral.
Yeah. I can see why they'd bludgeon their kids. It makes sense. I could maybe take their side here.
Yeah.
Dogs are wonderful.
Yeah, so the reason we never take God's side is because God is the tyrant in the situation.
He tends to do the bad things.
Yeah, if you decontextualize any story of God from the Bible, God is usually the bad guy. Like, it's almost exactly 100% of the time, God is the bad guy. Like, he gambles with Job's livelihood and family's life. He committed the biggest genocide of all time, which the funniest defense I've ever heard of God committing genocide in the flood was, I forget who it was. It might have been Eric Hovind. They said something along the lines of like, "Oh, well, you keep calling that a genocide. It's not a genocide because a genocide is when you target one specific group of people. This was all people." It's like, you think that makes it better?
Yeah, that doesn't make it anywhere near better. Although,
Fennec is asking if I've watched Has Been a Hotel. No, Cirrus only just made me aware of that like yesterday.
It's wonderful. The first time I stepped away, it was me checking on Saki because she ended her stream and it was because she wasn't feeling well. So I was like, I'm gonna go make sure that you're okay real quick because I was hearing noises coming from the room. Turns out, no, she's just watching Has Been Hotel over again, singing the songs. That's what the noise was.
Nice.
She's singing to Alistair's "Wish You'd Stayed Gone" song, which I'm not going to give context for.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So Gigabase Dad says, "Who else would watch this? Movie idea. A bully from the 80s and 90s a bully from the 80s or 90s time travels to the present to a school with diversity and inclusion." Do the people who made this meme not realize that, like, even in movies from the 80s and 90s, the bully character was the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like that's Buzz from Home Alone. He was not a sympathetic character.
You know what's also confusing about that? It's like these people never watched The Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of those movies that did everything in its power to celebrate diversity in the 80s and 90s.
I was going to say the sexual assault in that is very uncomfortable. Do you not remember that scene?
It's been 20 years.
There is a scene where he is hiding under the desk of one of the girls, and she's keeping him secret from the principal or whatever it was, and he takes that moment to, like, it doesn't explicitly show it, but it very heavily implies that he sticks his face in her crotch, and she is very much not happy about that.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, it's like, it's one of those scenes that, like, oh, that did not hold up at all. Like, the rest of the movie is mostly okay, but, like, that one in particular is like, ugh.
Just doesn't age well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we say it doesn't age well, but, like, that shouldn't have been appropriate at the time either. Like, it shouldn't be about how long ago it was.
No, but it is one of those things where, like, the way that we would go about that kind of humor now would be a little more tongue-in-cheek as opposed to, oh, look at him, he's just being a guy.
Yeah. Also, like, you take a bully from the 80s and 90s and put them in a DEI school. I don't know about the school culture in your area. I mean, you're Georgia, so it's probably quite a bit different. But, like, in my area, all the schools are very LGBTQ affirming, and all, like, for the most part, the student body accepts that as well. And, like, anyone that starts making fun of somebody for that will immediately become the target of bullying. So, like, the bullies would get their asses kicked if they started picking on the gay kids or the black kids or whatever else.
So I don't know how it is in Georgia because I didn't go to school in Georgia. I went to school in Florida. And
well, I'm also speaking from, like, hearing my kids talk about school now. So, like, I'm talking about school culture now. Because, like, when I was a kid, yeah, gay was an insult.
Gay was an insult when I was a kid too. So even the 6-year age difference we have, I think it is, they didn't change that much on my end.
Sure, we'll go with 6 years.
Sure, we'll go with 6 years.
Actually,
I'm 31.
Okay, it is 6 years.
Okay, I figured I was right on that one.
This is my favorite tweet that we have tonight. Ancestral Vril says, top 5 low IQ religions. Number 1, atheism. 2, Hinduism. 3, neo-paganism. 4, deism. 5, Islam. They say Talmudic Judaism gets an honorable mention.
With this tweet.
Yes, there is. Talmudic Judaism gets an honorable mention for most satanic beliefs, while Islam is high IQ compared to atheism or Hinduism. So, fun fact, I actually did respond to this on Twitter, and I seem to recall there being studies about how atheists tend to have higher IQs than religious people. And, like, you know, first off, number 1 point, IQ is bullshit.
Yeah, the bell curve was not actually something that we've been able to support with science.
It is, for the most part, a useless metric that basically only measures how good people are at taking IQ tests. So yeah, IQ does not actually measure your intelligence. It measures how good you are at taking IQ tests. But it is a fact that studies have shown that atheists tend to have higher IQs than people with religion. That doesn't mean that they're smarter, because, like, when I'm going to talk about, because I found a study that looked at, like, other metrics for intelligence, and it found that, you know, there wasn't really a connection. Like, there are smart people that are religious, there are smart people that are atheists. Like, there's not really a correlation there at all. But that same study, what it did find, like, it found that, like, atheism and IQ weren't directly linked. It's that people with autism tend to have higher IQs and also are more likely to be atheists. So atheism was just, like, the spurious correlation in there where the actual, like, causal link was autism and high IQ. And so I read that and I'm just sitting here like, my partner's been telling me that I'm autistic.
Yes, you got a high IQ, buddy.
I'm an atheist. So, like, statistically speaking, I would probably do okay on an IQ test. And now they're saying that autism and IQ is correlated, and autism and atheism is correlated, and I am at least 2 of those 3 things.
It's weird with how much like autism gets used as an insult by these people. That low IQ is also an insult for them, but then statistically the people with autism just happen to have the IQ.
I didn't even think of that, because like just the idea of using autism or IQ as an insult just seems stupid to me.
It feels alien.
Yeah.
Like
even back when I was a kid in school and gay was an insult that I used myself on occasion, I would have never thought to use autism as an insult. And like, I knew about autism. There were autistic kids in my school. But
like, there have been times where I've cursed some of the problems that happen with autism, like not understanding certain social cues and stuff like that, where I've had to go with some of my friends and go, hey, so I feel like this thing that's happening right now might be a autism thing, but strictly making fun of somebody for being autistic. Trying to think if there's a point where I've done that, even in my more edgy times.
Yeah, I actually remember when I first found out that that whole like thing.
Yeah.
Like when I found out that was that originated with someone saying, "Oh, it's autistic screeching," I immediately stopped using that. And it wasn't because it's like, "Oh, I'm woke," because I don't want to do. It was just like, no, I'm not going to insult someone because they have autism. That's just stupid. Donald Jaramillo Jaramillo, I'm not sure how to say that, I'm sorry, says conservatives will also treat college educated as an insult. Yeah, I've seen them do that as well. Everything's an insult.
So do you remember when I said that I really hope that nobody gives me an article about a Republican using the stupid argument that I just gave about food in schools? One of my mods just sent one to me that's actually even worse.
Oh.
According to one of the Republican reps, hunger is relative.
What? I mean, technically, I guess you could say that, but that's not an argument against feeding people.
Yeah, but for the purpose of it's about Minnesota kids in school and about the fact that 1 in 4 kids have insecure food situations.
I think what they're probably getting at is that like what you guys call a hungry child in the States is probably not as hungry as a hungry child in like rural Africa.
I don't give a shit.
It's like, no, but they're still both hungry and need food, and there's one that is much easier for you guys to do something about.
It's like when I've got a friend over and they say they're hungry, typically that's the signal that we need to leave the house and get food, or I need to cook something. That's what that is, because they're a guest in my home.
Yeah, I don't not eat dinner one day because there are people in the world that are more hungry than me.
Yeah, that would make you kind of stupid.
Yeah. All right, Daniel again says, most atheists do know a fair bit about religion, but they know very little about atheism. It's like, okay, there's not much to know about atheism.
That's the reason
you can get into the philosophy of atheism if you want, but at its core, atheism is just answering the question, do you believe in a God, with no.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why some of the earlier like 10 questions atheist can't answer videos that I would do on my channel, a criticism that I got in my comment section a couple times was, well, why didn't you just answer this with that has nothing to do with atheism? Well, because then every video that I ever did like this would look exactly the same. They would all be the same thing. Yeah. And it's more fun to see somebody go make a comment about chromosome 2 splitting and talk about like, how does atheism explain this? I'm like, well, I don't know how atheism explains it, but I did get to spend about an hour researching this thanks to you asking that, and that was interesting. So let's talk about that. Like that makes for a better video, and it's more fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this person gets so close, but they miss it. It says, they assume atheism must be rational because religion doesn't seem to be. I turned my skeptical eye towards atheism and found it to be totally absurd. That's why I'm no longer an atheist. It's like atheists don't know about atheism, but they know about religion, and they find religion to not be rational. That's why they're atheist. So given that the only thing you really need to know about atheism is you answer the question, do you believe in God, with no? And like when you examine religion and find it to be irrational, or at least find the claims to be not convincing, then saying, okay, I'm not convinced of those claims is fine. And you don't need to know anything about David Hume or any of the atheist philosophers or whatever.
You don't need to go on a 15 multi-year tirade about definitions of atheism.
Oh, I think I know who that's referencing. No comment. He who must not be named. Bragwin's pointing out that human chromosome 2 didn't split, it fused. Correct.
Fair.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, case orbs again. People are more willing to stand with Ukraine than they are with Texas. Yeah, you know why?
Because Texas is wrong.
Well,
there's actually a tyrant involved with.
Yeah, because Ukraine is
Ukraine.
Ukraine is actually being invaded, whereas Texas just has people looking for a better life at its border. Like it's really that simple. Like
it's like if in the world where Canada invades the United States, which please fucking do.
We burnt down the White House. Don't you remember that?
Do it again. I'm sorry.
So, the division of the military that burnt down the White House was the same one that my mother was a part of when she was in the reserves.
Oh.
Yeah. So my mother was a part of the regiment that burned down the White House. Separated by a couple hundred years, but you know, at least 100 years.
It's like being part of Rareware now. You're not technically the people who made Banjo-Kazooie, but you can pat yourselves on the back.
Sure, why not? Yeah, like we got into this last week with they were Greg Abbott declared an invasion. It's like, well, is there a military force that's invading, or is it just a bunch of people? It's like, if they're not attacking you with guns as they're coming across the border, that's not really an invasion.
No, not really.
Yeah, so, but in Ukraine, it was people with guns and tanks and shit.
Enough tanks that some farmers have their own personalized Russian tanks now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just don't mess with the Ukrainians. They will kick your butt. It's like,
so
wasn't Putin expecting it to be over in like a week?
Yeah, and now it's been
still going.
It's been 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, it's coming up on 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Fuck.
Axo says, how good are tanks for farming? They're pretty good at pulling a plow.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty good at pulling plows, come to think of it. They're all-terrain, because they are all-terrain vehicles.
Is that what the line in Les Mis meant when it said, we will walk behind the plowshare? It's actually a tank pulling a plow? That brings a whole new meaning to that phrase.
Kind of reminds me of the opposite of that. In Magic the Gathering, one of the most popular cards is called Swords to Plowshares. And it's about, like, the picture of the card is about an old soldier who has to, like, learn how to adjust to being in a rural society instead of being in a regiment anymore.
Yeah, Naramdaput says, Ukraine is being bombed and invaded. Texas is trying to usurp the power to make border policy from the federal government it belongs to. I see nothing in common between these situations. It's because there's nothing in common between these situations. Okay, now we have, r/Facebook Science. They posted a screenshot which has some guy named Daniel Jones saying, false, all life is CO2 based. We all require CO2 to live, which is stupid.
Does that mean we're CO2 based just because we need it?
Well, that's like somebody responded to him saying life is carbon based, not CO2 based. To which Daniel replied, what does that C stand for again?
Does this person know the difference between plastic and oil? Because there's only like a tiny molecule difference between the two of them, but one is edible and one is not. I mean,
or fucking table salt that it's sodium chloride made up of sodium and chlorine. But if you take chlorine by itself, that's a poisonous gas that will kill you in seconds. If you take sodium by itself, that's a metal that explodes when it touches water.
Yeah.
But you put the two together and you get something that is required for life.
Yeah, something tasty.
But so Facebook Science posted this and said, good Lord, seldom have I witnessed such feats of top leftness. I don't know what that means.
Like, top left being, I'd imagine that's a reference to the political compass. That's the only way I could possibly parse that.
Is the top authoritarian or libertarian?
Authoritarian left. That'd be like your Maoists.
I don't know how any of this has anything to do with that.
It's
So,
the only
whatever.
thing I can possibly think.
Just ignore the Facebook science post. Like, the screenshot is the main thing I want to look at, because Daniel Jones replied to this posting of the screenshot to double down. Said, hey, that's me again. I'm so glad you can still understand basic, or I think it meant you still can't understand basic shit. LOL, the C stands for carbon. CO2 is the basis for all life on this planet, as it's one of the main fuels for plant life, which all life depends on one way or another.
He just twisted what all those words mean really hard to get what he wanted out of it.
Yeah. Now, ignoring chemosynthesis, the vast majority of life on the planet, yes, does depend on plants in one way or another, which does get its carbon from CO2. But that does not mean that life is it's not carbon dioxide based.
No,
It's
that would mean carbon dioxide is a
carbon-based.
building block of us. And that's not what it is.
No. Carbon dioxide is literally a waste product. We need the carbon, we don't need the dioxide.
I'm just reminded
Oh, Jason Hyatt says top left equals Dunning-Kruger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. That makes more sense.
Electrolytes. It's what plants crave.
Did I ever tell you about the time when I accidentally got into an argument with
Dunning-Kruger?
Dunning-Kruger about the
Yes.
Dunning-Kruger effect? Yeah, that was an embarrassing moment of my life.
We all look. I said chromosome 2 split earlier on the stream. We all have sobering moments.
I feel like mine was worse. Hey, you got to top me last week. I'm topping you this week.
In front of everyone? Damn.
Yeah, right here on stream.
Well, I didn't realize we were streaming on Pornhub.
Or we're just all losing monetization today.
Yeah. I just gained monetization on my Magic channel.
Yeah. So now I can take it away on this one.
Exactly. I mean, what? No, that's not what that means.
All right. That was the last tweet. So, yeah. Fun times.
That's it for everybody. Go home and sleep.
Yeah, I know that's what I'm going to be doing. I have to record a Darth Vader impression for Godless Granny.
I have to record 2 more. I have to record 3 videos. Kill me.
Yeah, okay. Well, God help you, because I sure can't.